I'm Cass, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'll be sharing with you all the books that I read in January. So it's like a nice little January reading wrap up. Now, this month I read 11 different books, and only one of them was a reread. I know, thank you. If you don't know me, I have a severe rereading problem, and my New Year's book goal resolution was to fix that. And the only reread actually was Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood, and that's only because the second one is coming out, and one of my rules was I can reread a book if I'm going to continue on the series and But I have a whole video on that if you want to check that out, but we're not talking about my goals because I already did that. We're talking about the books that I read this month. So, starting with War Storm by Victoria Aveyard. Now this is book 4 in the Red Queen series, and it's kind of like the finale. I rated this 4 stars, and it's kind of funny because a lot of the fantasy books that I read have some sort of big war as a final climactic thing in the last book. And I find those war scenes so fucking boring and hard to get through. And it's not just Victoria Aveyard, because Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas, when I first read that, I was not having the war scenes. It's just not my thing. And it's funny because I read fantasy books and a lot of them lead up to war. But I still rated this 4 stars. I did enjoy it, which is kind of funny because I really wasn't invested in any of the characters other than Evangeline, Samos, and her family problems. So when there's a book that has this many characters and I only care about one, I was shocked that I rated it 4 stars, I'm not gonna lie. This did take me a while to pick up, considering that I read the other 3 books in the series back in like July, and I'm just getting to it in January of 2022. But I finally have read the series and I feel very accomplished. The next book that I read is Broken Throne, which is like a collection of novellas within the Red Queen universe. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I absolutely skimmed the first story in this. It wasn't even a story, it was like the history of the kingdom. And like I said earlier, I only cared about one character in the entire book, and then I did care about another character earlier in the series, but unfortunately that character was murdered, so I didn't get to see any more of them. And I did in this book, so that made me very happy. But the first like history lesson textbook type thing, I just did not give a shit about. Listen, I never liked history in high school or middle school, so even though this is a fictional universe, I still didn't like it. So there's that, I suppose. I rated this 3 stars, and I did enjoy the fact that I also got more Evangeline Samos because we love her, okay? She's a badass bitch and I want to be her. The third book I picked up was Punk 57. I heard like vague things about this book, enough to like pique my interest. And then I picked it up and I read it in like basically one sitting with my friend at a coffee shop. I rated it 3 stars. I did have a few problems with this book and the characters. I could see where Ryan was like struggling with her high school personality and like the persona she has to be of being like popular and cool and wanting to keep that up, because in high school that really does feel like end all be all, like your reputation, like you want to fit in, you want to be cool, you don't want to be lonely. And so I get that she's putting on this front in this show, but then like at home and when she was writing to Misha, she was this completely other person who was nerdy and fun and like different than how she is in high school. The problem I had with Misha was that he was a hypocrite. He would shit on Ryan for bullying other people and like not standing up for other people, and then fucking like bully her. And it didn't feel like there was a lot of consent going on, and I don't know, it was a little iffy. So I wasn't like entirely in love with the characters, but obviously the book kept my interest enough for me to read. It had some issues, but I enjoyed the story somehow. Okay, this next book, I don't even want to talk about. I started reading this end of last year, and I wanted to finish it for I didn't have to read this book in the beginning of this month, but I ended up not finishing it. I had like 300 more pages of this fucking 650 page book that's felt like 650 million pages. And I just want to read you my review I left on Goodreads because I feel like that, this hurts, okay? This hurts. Den of Vipers by K.A. Knight. Now here's my review. I was originally just going to write I Wish for Death, but that review was already said. So was I Need Bleach and What in the Wattpad, and this was Wattpad on steroids. We all know the reason why I picked up this book and it did not deliver. One page in and I knew that this book wasn't it, but there I was, naive, a fool, simply dying to know how it got all the hype that it did. I come out of this reading experience not as a better person, but as someone who will forever be scarred and broke because of this book. If someone asks me what my least favorite book is, I now have that answer. So thank you, I suppose, to K.A. Knight for providing me with this 600 pages of this. I wish this book, I dropped it on the floor and I literally do not even care. I know I reacted like I care, I don't care. This book would be better served as kindling, okay? Bad. 1 star, in case you were curious, obviously. And the main character, the girl, was such like, I'm just not like other girls. Like, I wear leather jackets and bright red lipstick and combat boots. I'm just so different. I run a bar and then they murder a bunch of people and it turns her on, and it's just like, that's fine if that's what you're into, but it just was not well written in the slightest. And we're gonna move on because my parents watch my videos. Hi, Mom and Dad. Ugh. The next book was the first 5-star read of the year, and that was Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is my first Taylor Jenkins Reid book I've ever read, and I see why people love her writing so much. It's beautiful, and the story had me captivated. I love the style in which she's told the story. So there's 4 siblings. I realized I didn't give like summary about what these books are about. But that's okay. Maybe I'll start midway through the video. That's fine. But essentially there are these 4 siblings who are daughters and sons of this like famous musician, but he's kind of a deadbeat and their mom had to raise them all on their own, but then their mom kind of died. It's their story and it all leads up to this massive party that they throw every year. And oh my gosh, Taylor Jenkins Reid is just a genius when it comes to writing. So a lot of books, when they weave back and forth between past and present, I do not give a shit about the past. I really don't. But with this book, I actually almost cared for their parents' stories a little bit more than I did during their portions, but I still enjoyed the siblings' portions, don't get me wrong. I loved the sibling dynamic, being in a family of 4 other children myself. I kind of related to how they all grew up very different, even though they were raised in the same household. And I really suck at describing books I love because I just gush so hardcore. But this book, first 5-star read, absolutely a 180 from the other shit book we don't talk about. So I really am looking forward to reading her other works, Daisy Jones and the Six, and The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. My 6th book that I picked up was one that was kind of popular on Book Talk, I think, The House in the Cerulean Sea. I was not captivated by this book in like the entire first half. I did give it a 3.5 stars. The ending definitely redeemed it, but the problem is characters who are very like to a T, follow the rules, like goody two-shoes, I have a problem with liking. And yes, he changes and you know, blah blah blah, but I just wasn't it. The children in this book were adorable, and that's kind of what made it for me. It was just very interesting, very whimsical. I did cry during this book, I'm pretty sure. I think it was the ending. Not the very ending, but like, I can't talk about it without spoiling, but I cried. Which, I'm a Pisces, so I do that a lot, so that's not really anything special. But, no, I don't cry that much during books. But, Linus, he gave me Jacob Kowalski vibes from Fantastic Beasts. Just in the beginning of the book, working like his terrible job and like hating his life, and just, he gave me those vibes. I've never done a reading wrap up, okay? Don't judge my terrible me talking about books. For someone who thinks that there is a booktuber, I sure do suck at talking about books. I think it's fine though. It's fine. It's fine. Remember when I just said that I don't really cry during books, but I'm a Pisces, so I do cry, but like books don't really, yeah, that's bullshit. I cried during this one too. 4 stars, Colleen Hoover just really knows how to just destroy your soul. I only read 2 of Colleen Hoover's books and they both hurt me. However, I think with books that like start and end all in like one go and it's not a series, I struggle to like grow on the characters. Everything just happens at a quicker pace just because it is one book. And I think that's why I didn't rate it 5 stars, just 4 stars, because it was an enjoyable read. And I vaguely remember it, I'm gonna be honest, which I have that problem. Like I read a lot of books and I read very fast. And sometimes all I can remember is just like enjoying the reading. And I don't remember anything that goes down in the books, but I remember liking it. It was the vibes, y'all, okay? I enjoyed the vibes. This is probably a really unhelpful video if you're looking for book recommendations. But yeah, 4 stars. Oh my god. Yo, I cried during this next one too. Crying in H Mart, more like crying alone in my bedroom, fucking sobbing to this book. It is a memoir about Michelle Zauner. Sorry if I butchered that. I did rate it 4 stars. It kind of felt weird to rate a memoir because it's like her life story. But essentially, her mom has cancer. And it's a story about growing up in an immigrant home, which is so interesting to learn about different perspectives on people's lives. Like I was raised in a very like happy, healthy home with 2 parents and 3 other siblings. And I didn't have that many friends growing up to where I would like go over to their houses and like see their family dynamic. And so reading about it is just like fascinating to me. And yeah, I felt weird to like give this a star rating, but I did enjoy it. I did absolutely bawl my eyes out because I'm a Pisces. No, just because it was really sad. Like, wow, a lot of books I read this month I cried to, but I'm an emotional bitch, okay? I've already said that too many times, but it was very good. It deserves all the hype that it had gotten, and I think I picked this up because I saw it on Lin Chung's bookshelf, and then I think Dobo Chobo also mentioned it, and those are like my 2 favorite YouTubers. And so here I am, and there I was crying to it. Next, I picked up a historical fiction and I rated it 3.5 stars, and it was Between the Shades of Grey. Now, originally when I picked up this book, I knew it was a World War II story, but I thought it was about the Holocaust and the Jews. I had no idea that this was going to be about Lithuanians being displaced to Siberia and them essentially being stuck between Hitler and Stalin, which is like the worst of both worlds. It was a fascinating read, very educational. I don't like saying I love books like this, but I think they're so important. Even though it's a historical fiction, I think it's so important to use literature to keep history alive. And I know I said earlier that I hate history and I hate like learning about history, but I think it's very important that these events that went down, especially the Holocaust and the Jews and things that happened in Lithuania, I had no idea this even happened. And it took me reading a work of fiction for me to learn about it when this should have been discussed in the curriculum in my school. This should have been brought up, and it never was. Horrible things that happen in history should not be covered up. Like, we should know about it, for history does not repeat itself. And that's not what's happening. History is repeating itself because people want to brush everything under the rug and brush the terrible things that humankind has done to other people. And this isn't supposed to be a tangent about the US educational system and their curriculums, or lack thereof, but this book I rated 3.5 stars. Sorry, I'm gonna like, I just get so angry and I still have a few more books I gotta get through. So, it was an average book in my opinion. Changing pace a little bit, back to a 5-star read, and this is my reread that I was telling you about, which was Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood. Now, back when I first read this in 2020, I gave it 3 stars, and the audacity of old me to give this book 3 stars, are you shitting me right now? I loved this book so much the second time around, and it felt like the first time around because I'm gonna be honest, I didn't remember a single thing that went down in this book. Something about Sarah J. Maas's books just takes me 2 reads to love. I don't know what it is about, because when I read Kingdom of Ash back in 2018, I hated it, 3-starred it. I hated it. I 3-starred it. And same with this book, I 3-starred it. But then the second go around of me reading Kingdom of Ash and Crescent City, I loved it. I love Bryce, and I have trouble saying she's my favorite character because I'm just so attached to Selena Sardothian and Feyre and Aliv. But Bryce might be my favorite out of the Sarah J. Maas characters. I kind of relate to her a lot. I will say I was so sad that we didn't get more Danica action, because her and her entire like pack, bro, Connor, I fell in love with him so fast, and the fact that he didn't get more not screen time, but book time, more, I'm like, how can you make me fall in love with a character in like 50 pages? How? But Hunt also, hello, Hunt. We love him. And we also love that I actually understood like the politics and remembered which character was which during this reread, because that's the biggest thing about fantasy books sometimes, is like I get all the characters like jumbled and I'm like, who does what? Politics? How does this universe work? And there was a lot of info dumping in the beginning of this book, but for some reason I enjoyed it this go around. Like, I loved every page of this book. Like, I was so excited to pick it up and continue reading it. Last 200 pages, you know if you know, okay? If you've read this book, you know the last 200 pages, shit hits the fan, shit goes down, and I loved every second of it. So, 5 stars, and the second book is coming out so bloody soon, and I am so excited, but I'm so excited to see more Bryce and Hunt. And also I want to briefly mention that I DNF'd a book this month, which I feel like I should celebrate, because I don't practice what I preach, and in one of my book advice videos I said you should DNF books if you don't like it. And then I didn't DNF Den of Vipers, and I can't think of another book that I DNF'd like ever that I can think of, other than like I can think of one other one, but it was The Zookeeper's Wife, and I read like 50 pages, and I was like, why am I gonna suffer through like 250 more pages of this book? I think it was 300 pages, I don't know. When I don't like it, I'm like, I'm just gonna waste my time. So I DNF'd it, and I feel like I had to mention it because I couldn't get into it. I didn't like the writing style. The last book that I read this month was actually The Help by Catherine Stockett, which was another historical fiction. I don't know, I love historical fictions, and I realized that I don't read that many of them, so I was trying to fix that. But then I also really don't like talking about historical fictions, because I don't like saying if I don't like a historical fiction because it's literally based on true events. But this one I did like, 4 out of 5 stars, and I did really enjoy the read. I saw the movie, which is why I got the book originally, and that's why I read the book. Again, the things that people have done in the past just blows my mind. And it's so important to know, because if you're racist, you're a piece of shit. The fact that this has happened it blows my mind. It blows my mind. And it's not even like it happened like hundreds and hundreds of years ago. Like, this is still like recent shit. Like, people, I believe, are still alive today that did work as maids for white people and raise their white children, while their own children are literally at home being looked after by other people. I'm having the same reaction as I did to the other book. It makes me so fucking angry. But this book I felt like was well written. I did find it interesting that this was written by a white person. I will be honest, that kind of threw me off, because I thought originally when I was reading it that it was written by someone of color, and it was not. So that felt weird to me. It's amazing to see how far as a society we've come since this, but it also just doesn't sit right that we had to come that far as a society. I'm just saying. And my previous statement still stands that if you are racist, you are a piece of shit. Okay, I need a second to recompose myself. So these were all the books I read in January. This is also heavy, so I'm gonna have to kind of set it down a little bit. I really think there was a good variety of genres. I mean, I read historical fiction, I read fantasy. I don't know, what else did I read? I don't know, romance, erotica, which we don't have to talk about. Hi, Mom and Dad. Bro, that book was so bad. Like, bleh. If you want a summary of these books, go to Goodreads, because I did not give a single explanation on like any of these books. I just talked about them. But if you're down for chaos, that's why you're here, okay? You're not here to hear some intellectual deep dive conversation. You're here for the chaos, okay? I'll show you a clip of my reading journal, what it looks like filled out. Isn't it pretty? All color coordinated, and this beautiful bar graph. Bro, I'm a sucker for a good bar graph. We know this. Wait, hold on, hold the phone. Bro, I can give you my stats. Hold on. Reading journal, come here. Total pages I read was 5,026. The average star rating for this month was 3.6. The total books I bought were 15. But that's a good ratio. I read 11 books and only bought 15, and most of those that like I bought this month, I read this month. And then I read 21 days out of the 31 days. But that is all. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. It literally means the world. I really hope you enjoyed the chaos that was this video. I don't know. And I'll hopefully see you in my next video. Toodles.